of 31 students, 4 teachers, who are undertaking a study tour of the Senate. Honorable Senators, on behalf of the Senate, on my own behalf, send a warm welcome to the delegation. Wish them all the very best during. Will Honorable Senators call upon Senator Boni Khalwale, 1 minute to send a word of welcome to delegation Zambia, and I'll call upon the minority leader, 1 minute to send a word of welcome the delegation Republic of South Sudan. Thereafter, I'll call upon the Senator for Kajiado County, Seki, send a word of welcome county. That to be done 1 minute. Start with Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's an honor for me. Acknowledge the presence in this House of our colleagues from Zambia, and I do welcome you warmly, honorable members. Honorable members, Kenya and Zambia have been one and the same from the early 60s. I recall in 1963, so we read, that when we got independence, 1 year later, Zambia followed suit and you got your independence. That friendship was maintained up to and including support that especially the government of Zambia gave to the people of South Africa for them to get their independence. Mr. Speaker, I cannot stop without telling the people, the honorable members from Zambia, my experience when I came there. The Speaker, I went to the restaurant and they gave me a menu. So I didn't know food to pick. So I looked and then I saw somewhere they had written Ingoko Shima. So I pointed on that one. And when they brought me, Mr. Speaker, they brought me a Luya dish of Ingoko Nobshuma. When I realized that my brothers actually are in Zambia, who should ideally be living here in Kenya, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, allow me to join myself with you in welcoming the delegation from the Republic of Southern Sudan. Speaker, I believe their presence here go a long way to understand how our parliamentary are being conducted. Also at the same time, Mr. Speaker, I believe and I know, I've been to Southern Sudan myself, and we have a lot in common of Southern Sudan. In fact, one of the incidences I want to say is that our flag sometimes looks almost like theirs. So I believe, Speaker, we and the people of Southern Sudan are brothers and sisters. So I would like to welcome them. I hope they will enjoy their stay here as they are planning how to conduct our activity in Parliament. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also want to join you to thank the students from Sunday Side School from Kajiado North constituency, Kajiado County, Ongatorongai division. I want to welcome you to the Senate and thank you for having time together with the teachers who have accompanied you. I want to say that you're most welcome to the Senate. You know, this is a great place that you learn more about legislature and more so get to understand that this is the way to go. I want to tell you that we have 2 delegations from Kajiado. We have Honorable Peris Tobiko, who is in the House, as a very honored senator who have gone through 2 terms as a member of parliament for Kajiado East. And also we have Honorable Montet. This house is a senator. Bereaved. He just passed, the husband passed on last week. And we want to say, may God bless her. Even I was there this morning. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to say thank you very much for the school and for the entire county having you here today. Thank you very much.
Honorable Senators also wish to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery this afternoon, visiting delegation of staff from the Kilifi County Assembly. Staff are in the Senate, attending a training program on the proper procedures and protocols for commissioning and handling a new mess. Honorable Senators, I request each member of the delegation to stand when called out so that you may be acknowledged in the Senate tradition. Mr. Michael B. Ngala, Clerk, Kilifi County Assembly. Mr. Omar Chufi, Chief Sergeant at Arms. Mr. Alfred Mumba. Ms. Clara Dama. Mr. Elijah Koi. Ms. Martha Nyundo. Mr. Mwagandi Kiponda. Mr. Samson Katana. Honorable Senators, on behalf of the Senate, on behalf, extend a warm welcome and wish you again, call upon the minority leader and word of welcome under 1 minute.
Asante mstahiki Spika. Mstahiki Spika, kwanza pia nataka kujiunga na wewe kuweza kuwakaribisha ndugu zetu kutoka huko nyumbani Kilifi. Na matumaini ya kwamba wale ambao wamekuja hapa kwa niaba ya ile county assembly yetu ya Kilifi wamekuja kujionea jinsi vile tunafanya mambo yetu hapa ya Senate. Vile vile Bwana Spika, natumaini ya kwamba uwepo wao hapa kwamba wamekuja kuifundisha mengi. Vile vile wataweza kupata kujua na kujifundisha ili wanaporudi nyumbani waweze kuendeleza bunge letu la Kilifi County tena namna gani. Ili mimi nataka kuchukua nafasi hii kuwakaribisha pia hawa ndugu zetu ndani ya bunge la Senate, na kwamba hapa ndipo mnapopata kila kitu ambacho mnakihitaji kule Kilifi. Nataka mkitumie kwa njia ya kisawasawa. Asante Bwana Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Senate Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the Senate today, the 11th March 2025. Environmental Management and Coordination Access Biological Benefit Sharing Regulations, legal notice number 5. Environmental Management Bonds Regulation 25. Freedom on the Environmental Management and Coordination Air Quality Amendment Regulation, legal notice number 1. Conclude on the Environmental and Coordination Sand Harvesting Amendment Regulations notice number 25. Conclude on the Environmental Management and Water Quality Amendment Regulation Law 5. On the and Coordination Waste Management Regulations notice 4 of 20. Annual reports of the Power of Mercy for the financial year 2022-23. Report of the Office of the Control of Budget on the county government's budget implementation review for the first half of financial year 2024-2025. Reports of the Auditor General on the financial statements of Darua County Assembly, Car Loan and Mortgage Members Fund for the year ended 30 June. 4. Report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of Muranga Level 5 Hospital, County Government of Muranga for the year ended 30 June. 4. Report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of JM Karaoke Memorial County Referral Hospital, County Government of Nakuru for the year ended 30 June. I beg to lay, Mr. Speaker.
Next order, Clerk.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Statement pursuant to Standing Order 53-1. Senator for Marsabit County, Honorable Mohammed Chute.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I have a request for statement on the construction of Sololo Level 4 Hospital. The Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing regarding the delayed completion of Sololo Level 4 Hospital in Marsabit County. The Speaker, sir, Sololo Level 4 Hospital, located in Sololo, Marsabit County, was initially a project of the Marsabit County government. However, it was later taken over by the Kenya Defence Forces in order to facilitate its completion. Despite construction efforts spanning over 7 years, the hospital remains incomplete, raising serious concern about access to essential healthcare services in the region. Originally, it was scheduled for completion in March last year. The project has faced numerous delays with no clear communication on its progress. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide an update on the current status of the construction of Sololo Level 4 Hospital, including the hospital's total size in square meters, the percentage of work completed, pending tasks, and reasons for the prolonged delay, and the revised timeline for completion. 2, outline the original cost of the project, any cost variations over the years, indicating the total investment by the Kenya Defence Forces towards the hospital construction, whether additional funds have been allocated towards the project, and the total estimated cost to completion. And finally, 3, specify when the residents of Sololo will be able to access services from the institution. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Senator for Osishu County, Honorable Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Senator Jackson Mandago.
Honorable Senator, you have a written authority from. Could I see the text? Honorable Senators, why I'm doing this is because I last week allowed a number of you raise statements on behalf of your colleagues. Very same colleagues came to my office complaining. I need proof that indeed you carry instructions. As you look for the text, Honorable Senator Hezena.
The Speaker, and I rise on a request for a statement on the exploitation of young Kenyan girls on TikTok Live. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Information, Communication and Technology regarding the recent BBC investigation exposing the exploitation of young Kenyan girls on TikTok Live. Mr. Speaker, sir, the report, which ran on 3rd of March 2025, highlights serious concerns about child safety, the failure of digital platforms to enforce age restrictions, and the increasing vulnerability of minors to online predators. Many girls are being lured into exploitative activities under the guise of digital gifting and monetization features, raising urgent questions about the effectiveness of existing protection. Without stringent safeguards, these platforms risk becoming conduits for abuse, violation not only on the rights of children, but also Kenya's legal framework for child protection. There is an urgent need for government intervention to prevent the continued exposure of minors to such harmful content and to hold all responsible parties accountable. In particular, the committee should 1. Explain any measures in place to ensure compliance with Kenya's Data Protection Act in protecting minors' personal data from exploitation on digital platforms such as TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram, and provide details on how the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner is engaging with social media companies to enforce child data privacy and the steps being taken to strengthen regulatory oversight. Second, outline the legal and technical requirements for age verification on the said platforms and assess their effectiveness in preventing underage users from accessing harmful content, while outlining any ongoing discussions with digital service providers to enhance enforcement and implement stricter authentication measures for age verification. Third, describe the frameworks in place to detect, regulate, and swiftly remove exploitative content involving minors and the role of the Communications Authority of Kenya in ensuring compliance, indicating whether the government has engaged with TikTok regarding its role in enabling such exploitation and commitments made by the company to prevent recurrence. Fourth, explain the enforcement mechanisms or penalties available for digital platforms that fail to comply with Kenya's child protection regulations, and interrogate how government agencies, law enforcement, and child protection organizations are coordinating efforts to detect, report, and respond to online child exploitation. Last but not least, interrogate the steps being taken to improve public awareness, digital literacy, and online safety education, particularly among children and parents, and assess the effectiveness of existing reporting mechanisms for victims, parents, and the public addressing cases of online child exploitation and any planned improvement. Senator Ezena Lemaletian. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. A request for statement on administration of the Universal Service Fund, USF. Honorable Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Information, Communication and Technology regarding the administration of the Universal Service Fund. The statement, the committee should address the following: the accountability mechanism in place to ensure transparency in the disbursement of funds from the Universal Service Fund, USF, and to prevent mismanagement and misappropriations of funds, providing an annual breakdown of the revenue and expenditure of USF from the 2022-2023 financial year to date. 2, the alignment of the project funded by USF with Kenya long-term digital information goals and their respective impact on digital access providing a list of all the projects undertaken from the year 2022-2023 financial year to date. To the extent of achievement of USF strategy goals, explaining why many areas across the country will remain undeserved or lack connectivity. 4, the reluctance of communication companies to expand network coverage in rural areas despite receiving tax incentive and regulatory support for the same. 5, the policy and regulatory interventions being considered to fast-track digital infrastructure deployment and to hold digital infrastructure contractors and service providers accountable for delay or substandard works. Request for statement on the status of implementation of the National Digital Superhighway and the Last Mile project under Universal Service Fund. Rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1, a statement standing communication and technology regarding the status of implementation of the National Digital Superhighway and the Last Mile Connectivity project under the Universal Service. In the statement, address the following: the status of implementation of the National Digital Superhighway and the Last Mile Connectivity project under Universal Service Fund, specifying the total kilometers of laid fiber optic cable and the number of digital village smart hubs established. 2, the challenges encountered in the implementation of the project and the actions taken to address them. 3, viability of public-private partnership in supporting the National Digital Superhighway and the Last Mile Connectivity project, and whether the government has considered them to supplement efforts. 4, the measures put in place by the government accelerates the implementation of the project for enhanced broadband access, particularly rural and marginalized areas. Thank you, Honorable.
Senator Chimera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The request for a statement on behalf of Senator Jackson Mandago, the status of purchase of wheat from Kenyan farmers. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries regarding the status purchase of wheat from Kenyan farmers. The statement, the committee should, number 1, provide a list of all licensed wheat millers in the country. Number 2, table the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, between the Cereal Growers Association and the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development regarding the purchase of local wheat by millers and the price paid per bag for the year 2024. Number 3, table a report of quantities of wheat purchased from the local farmers as well as quantities imported by each miller, explaining why the millers did not fully absorb locally produced wheat before purchasing the quotas allocated for duty-free import. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, state whether the wheat imported above the quotas attracted duty, and if not, state how much in cash equivalent the government forfeited on duty in the year 2024. Senator Raphael, on behalf of Senator Jackson Mandago. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senators will have an opportunity to speak. Keep it short. At most 3 minutes. Senator Richard Onyong.
Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to say my apologies because as I was tending to think through, Madam Kavindu was engaging me, so I'll let it pass. Thank you, sir, for giving me the opportunity.
Senator
Honorable Speaker, hoping that Senator for issue, who I think is a person of a present in the House to listen by Senator Chute on the completion of Sololo Level 4 Hospital. Honorable Speaker, even here in Nairobi, because we have had a discussion in this committee on a facility that had been taken up under similar circumstances, Margaret Kenyatta Hospital in Korogosho, had been taken up by national government, Kenyatta National Hospital. We fought through the committee to have it handed back down to the county government of Nairobi. But ever since that happened, Honorable Speaker, thanks to the Health Committee, nothing has happened in that facility, and the people of Nairobi have not seen the benefit of turning that facility back to the county government. So I would want that when the Health Committee is dealing with the question of Sololo, they also give this House an update on where we are, operationalization and use of the facility called Margaret Kenyatta Hospital in Korogosho. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Methu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And maybe even before I make a contribution on this that has been taught by Senator Hezena, I would want, Mr. Speaker, your guidance and clarification from yourself, Mr. Speaker, amongst the papers that were laid by the Leader of Majority. The last paper that he laid was a report of the Auditor General from the JM Karaoke Hospital, and JM Karaoke Hospital is in Nyandarua. But from the paper that was laid, it looks like JM Karaoke Hospital in Nakuru. I think that was the last paper that the last in the paper that was laid. So maybe that could be corrected so that the record is straight. But this statement that has been sought by Senator Hezena is a spot-on statement, Honorable Speaker. As our technology keeps growing and monetization, especially from the digital platforms, becomes a thing and an employment opportunity, especially for our young people, we must try and draw a line, a very significant line, Honorable Speaker, of protecting our children against online predators, Honorable Speaker. And I'm very happy, Honorable Speaker, that he has sought to understand how far and how much, especially the Data Commissioner of the Republic of Kenya, can be able to verify that the data that is going out, the only consumption that is going out, Honorable Speaker, is of content that is of people who have reached the consent age, Honorable Speaker, so that our children do not fall prey to online predators who would want to take advantage of people who cannot be able to make informed decisions and circulate content that should not be able to, that should not go out, Honorable Speaker. And I think the Committee on ICT has met in this particular statement, and more importantly, they must also establish where, because our laws will keep changing, our laws will keep making them better, because we are a law-making house, Honorable Speaker. Tell us whether there is any deficiency in terms of protecting our children against online predators, because monetization is not a very old form of employment, especially for our young people. We want our people to continue using internet to make money. Yes, that's a very good thing. But we cannot just leave it open, Honorable Speaker, such that anybody can just upload content of a kid, and the kid is not even aware that this is content that is going out, and there is no protection, and there is no way government can be able to protect such a kid, Honorable Speaker. So the Communication Authority of Kenya must, when they appear before the committee, and I can see members of that committee, Honorable Speaker, I don't know whether Senator Osotsi is still a member of that particular committee, but I think Senator Osotsi, because your chair is not here, this is something that you must be able to understand from the Communication Authority of Kenya.
Give the Senator 1 minute.
Whether they have the guidelines that they are using, especially on TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter, so that they can be able to protect the content that is going out, such that the child protection framework is there so that we can protect our children. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Osotsi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to comment on two statements. One by Senator Hezena on data protection rights. Another one by Senator Seki on ICT development in the country. Mr. Speaker, I participated in developing the Data Protection Act, which Senator Hezena was referring to. But I want to say the challenge we are having with the Office of Data Protection Commissioner is because the Act has not been properly and effectively implemented. I think that is a matter that should be looked into deeply by the ICT committee that will be looking into this matter. And Mr. Speaker, I think one of the things I have observed, I'm no longer in the ICT committee, Mr. Speaker, because I was very frustrated as a member of the ICT committee, given that my background is in the ICT sector. Everyone in this ministry is clueless, Mr. Speaker. And that one I have to say, starting from the Communication Authority to the ministry, everywhere, the ICT Authority, and I think we cannot develop in terms of ICT if we have people who are running this ministry or sectors in this ministry who do not understand technology itself. Mr. Speaker, Communication Authority, for instance, is headed by a journalist. Ministry of ICT is headed by people who have no clue on ICT. I think that's the starting point, Mr. Speaker. We saw this country made strides in ICT when Bitange Ndemo was in charge of that ministry. I think it's a high time we have to place people who are qualified, who are experienced in the sector, to run the institution under ICT. Because if you listen to the two questions the members have asked, and from my understanding of the ministry, there is a serious competence issue in this ministry, Mr. Speaker. When we talk about matters of Office of the Data Protection Commission, I mean, Mr. Speaker, we have a tendency of giving all the jobs to lawyers. We give all the jobs to lawyers, even jobs which require technical input. The Office of the Data Protection Commissioner should ideally be someone who understands technology, ICT, not a lawyer. That is the problem. If you look at CA, CA performed its role better when this gentleman, I've forgotten the name, Wangusi, was in charge. Mr. Speaker, a journalist cannot understand detailed information. He cannot understand spectrum management. He cannot understand issues of transmission of signals and all that stuff. I think it's a high time the appointing authority looked deeply into this ministry so that we have the relevant people in charge of the sectors in this ministry and even the parent ministry so that we deliver the technology to the people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to associate myself with the statement by Senator Hezena and Senator Seki, and I ask the ICT committee, which, Mr. Speaker, I left ICT committee because that committee is on the verge of death because of leadership. And I thought the majority leader will do better by getting the right leadership. Did that committee, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a very important committee that we require strong leadership so that we deliver for the people.
Senator?
You know, Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Party Leader of ODM has made a very serious allegation against the committee of this House. And you know, statement of fact. May I know because he has been a member. You see, when an alligator leaves the river and tells you that the crocodile is sick, you must listen to the alligator. I want to know why the senator also would actually say that the committee on ICT is at the verge of death, whereas the chairman of that committee, even when the committees were disbanded, he has been reinstated and has been reinstated on merit, because I was de-whipped on demerit. So I think he has been reinstated on merit. So I would want to know from Senator Osotsi why he would want to make such a serious allegation, and what proof he would have to that effect.
Senator Osotsi, all senators elected and nominated, placing them in committees and no individual senator can discuss competence or otherwise of the other. And you're fully aware that you cannot discuss, because that borders on discussing the conduct of a colleague. And you know that is out. Kindly refrain from that line of an argument. Conclude your remarks.
Mr. Speaker, I apologize. To that extent, Senator Methu wrote a statement for the ICT Committee on a very important matter of drop calls. And that statement was not given the maximum justice it needed. And it actually disappeared in thin air. So you have an answer on that matter already, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to go and discuss the competence of the leadership of that committee, but I was just trying to emphasize that if we have a scenario where there is people who are in leadership, in the agencies, in ICT, the ministry, and even the committee, then we will not be able to pursue the development that we need in this sector.
Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue raised by the Senator of Marsabit, Said Mohammed Chute, is very important. It speaks to a pandemic in this country, Mr. Speaker, where projects started by the first generation governors have stalled. The project at hand, the hospital in Sololo, Mr. Speaker, was 7 years just lying there. If you go to Kakamega, Yamahubu, just lying there for 10 years. In Kakamega Referral Hospital, for 10 years, it is just lying there, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in fact, this thing is cross-cutting, and we should look for a national solution. Mr. Speaker, it is very sad that Kenyans have to come from as low down as Isiolo to go and seek for medical treatment in Ethiopia because of this kind of nonsense. And the Auditor General, the control of budget, have spoken to all this. In fact, as late as last week, Mr. Speaker, there was a release from control of budget which showed the following: that billions of shillings have gone down the drain in stalled projects. And number one on the list is Kakamega County with 7.24 billion shillings gone. Followed, Mr. Speaker, by Uasin-Gishu County with 1.76 billion shillings down the drain gone. Followed by Machakos County with 1.13 billion shillings, followed by Nyandarua, 681.7 million, and Tarakanidhi. Of all counties, a small county called Tarakanidhi, they have been able to lose 525.29 million, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have to address this, because the same governors who are sitting on this loss of public funds, Mr. Speaker, if you saw the lifestyle those guys lead, Mr. Speaker, may God help me never to lead such a deceitful life. Because they don't need it. Mr. Speaker, the kind of properties they have here in Nairobi, and they have even developed the art of theft. They are now investing in South Africa and Dubai, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this House must do something. The MCS have tried. They have brought us motions of impeachment. What is this silver bullet we can release on these characters so that the people of Kakamega can have somebody recover for them 7.2 billion shillings, Mr. Speaker.
1 minute for Senator Tuwai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I cry for many, and the country will need patriots who will speak truth to power. Mr. Speaker, I was recently in a parliamentary committee called PG meeting. Governors were there, senators were there, and MPs were there. And they were drinking tea and feeling very happy. And they see nothing wrong, Mr. Speaker, in 10 billion shillings being held in the road maintenance levy because MPs and governors are fighting. In that same PG, why can't they agree amongst themselves that withdraw this thing from court so that members of the public can start enjoying 10 billion shillings? We are a lie. As a leadership of this country, we are a lie to wananchi. When we meet, we don't talk about wananchi's issues. We talk about our own issues. Speaker, the collective mind of the nation must now wake up. We cannot go on like this. I mean, that is not why I came to Nairobi. If I want money, I can get it in Kakamega. In fact, I successfully settled all my marriages just by being in Kakamega. There's nothing special in Nairobi. We came to Nairobi for matters of governance. And this is the crux of the matter. Senator Chute, we're with you. I know the story of Marsabit and Turkana, a county where children stop you on the road, not for money. They ask you water. And when you give the child, a little boy of 5 years, a bottle of water, the face lights up, Mr. Speaker. We are living a lie.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I think that I wanted to just give a few thoughts on the good statements out by Senator Ezena on TikTok usage and data protection. Mr. Speaker, I know that we do have a Kenya Data Protection Act in place. Assessment, and then look at the interface between that impact assessment together with the governance policies and how clear they can be. For instance, Mr. Speaker, despite the existence of that particular law, there is no transparency, Mr. Speaker, on data collection, data storage, and data usage, not only by TikTok, but by other social media platforms that we have. If you look at Meta platforms like IG, you can't really be able to pinpoint where the transparency is in terms of collection, storage, and waste and usage, Mr. Speaker. There are also no transparency on processing activities of this data that we are seeing massive young people and even older people getting on this platform, Mr. Speaker. And you can actually further look at it in terms of transfer of that data from within and without Kenya. Within Kenya, perhaps you can be able to force TikTok and other platforms, Mr. Speaker, to comply with the generic laws in the Kenya Data Protection Act. But what happens when that data is transferred outside? Does it meet the data protection safeguards outside this country? And what is the compliance metrics that our data protection organizations and government institutions have to make sure that this kind of platforms comply the safeguards that are established within China, are established within the US, are established within Ireland? This is something that must be looked at from an impact assessment perspective, Mr. Speaker. But then when you look at countries that have made strides, Mr. Speaker, like the US, they have data localization, Mr. Speaker, that there's some form of data that cannot be transferred outside their border and then be exploited more broadly, as we see with young people in this country. That also goes with things like content moderation, Mr. Speaker, standards. Despite the fact that people like TikTok have got what I would call industrial policy or company policies that we can buttress on, Mr. Speaker, on issue of data protection, there isn't really a way of being able to incorporate Kenyan cultural and remote...
Senator Kavindu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the protection. There isn't really a way that you can be able to incorporate things like Kenyan cultural and moral standards, despite the fact that people like TikTok and IG do appreciate the regional ideologies, regional cultures, Mr. Speaker. The current form of law that we have does not reduce to policy where you can be able to actually force them to comply with that notion of regional cultural and moral standards, because that is where content generations become a bigger problem. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, to further make this work for our younger generation, if you think about people who are under the age of 13, there has to be a required user education on our public sphere, Mr. Speaker, that is required of the corporate companies that are running these platforms, to the extent that that user education can also be able to help buttress some of the standards that TikTok, Facebook, IG, and any other social media platform that will come in future can be able to give to our young people. So I would request that this committee takes this work seriously and be able to promote.
Support the statement by Senator Mandago of farmers in this country. Mr. Speaker, I have seen the Agriculture and Food Authority run an ad of better kilimo mkulima kwanza. And as a country, we are constantly buy Kenya, build Kenya. Mr. Speaker, those remain mere words. If our wheat farmers can actually not have their wheat purchased from them, and instead we are opting for more imports which are flooding the market, Mr. Speaker, and I hope this will not be a game of the goose, just like when we were investigating the edible oil scandal. So, Mr. Speaker, I want the committee to go deep into it, because there is no way we are prioritizing importation and Kenya as a country is producing quantities of wheat and want to discourage our farmers for that matter. Then in this case, Mr. Speaker, if you allow me, I would use the Swahili word, kinaya kikubwa, that the Agriculture and Food Authority and the Ministry General is running an ad of better kilimo mkulima kwanza, but prioritizing people who are not our citizens in the country. So I want the committee to really go down into that, go beyond some of the issues Senator Mandago has raised, so that there is justice for our farmers who are actually involving themselves in farming. Mr. Speaker, I also want to support the statement by Senator Hezena, the wake-up call to parents, guardians, to also guide our children who are growing up on what is suitable for their consumption, so that in as much as we are going to put laws that want to actually guide them on what to look at and what not to look at, we as parents need to have that as a responsibility, so that we are bringing up children who are well informed. And that's why I brought the civic education bill, not just for key members here, but citizens in general, to be informed on what decisions they are bound to. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 8, motion, report of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock, and on a petition regarding the trophic maize that farmers in Bombay County secured for the last 12 years. Resumption of debate, question to be put.
Honorable Senators, debate on this motion. Question. Senate adopts the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries on a petition to the Senate regarding the catastrophic maize farmers in Bomet County have endured the last 12 years, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 5th of December 20. As many as of that opinion say aye. Well, as many as of the contrary opinion say nay. Ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, motion, report of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries on a petition to the Senate regarding graft investigation by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, on the West Kano irrigation scheme. Resumption of debate for the question to be put.
And again, motion on this particular debate on this motion had been concluded. Matter that does not touch clear on counties. Therefore, what remains again is for me to put the question, which now proceed. Senate adopts vote of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries on a petition to the Senate regarding graft investigation by the Ethics and Corruption Commission, West Kano irrigation, laid on the Senate Thursday, 5th, 20. As many as of that opinion say aye. Well, as many as of the contrary opinion say nay. Ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 10, motion, the Public Fundraising Appeals Bill, Senate Bills number 36 of 2024, second reading division.
Honorable Senators, will defer order number 11 all the way to 13. It from order number 14. Clerk.
Order number 14, motion, report of the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare on an inquiry into the welfare of workers at the export processing zones in Mombasa and Kilifi counties. Resumption of debate.
Now, for clarity, Honorable Senator, we have deferred order number 10 all the way to order number. Now, for order number 14, when debate was interrupted, Eddie had the floor and he had a balance of 14 minutes. Not in, so we will proceed to allow any senator wishing to make their comments. My dashboard, I don't see any indication. That's 14. Now, honorable senators, clearly there's no indication from any honorable senator to speak. Therefore, I will allow
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
you already moved. What you need to do right now is
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. Rise to thank everybody, the committee, Labour.
Senator Seki. Kindly take his.
And also the members that contributed to this motion, even though it was brief, but thank them anyhow. So, beg reply.
Clerk, do we have the forum? Honorable senators will now proceed with the question. Senate adopt the report on social welfare, very into export processing zones, EPZs, Mombasa and Cliffy counties, laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday, 1st of October 20. Well, as many as of that opinion say aye, as many as of the contrary opinion say nay, ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 15, motion, consideration of the joint report, National Assembly, Justice and Legal Affairs, Standing Committee, Justice, Legal Affairs, consideration of the report of the National Dialogue Committee, NADCO, and the report of the Sectoral Working Group, legalization of.
Chairperson Jaylak. We will try the particular. Clerk, call the next order.
Order number 16, the Heritage and Museums Bill, Senate Bills number 8 of 20, second reading.
Chairperson Standing Committee on Labor and Social. Move.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Moving the Heritage and Museum Bill 2023, Senate Bill number 8 of 2023. Speaker, sir, I beg to move the Heritage and Museum Bill 2023, read second time. The bill was published on 28th February 2023 and read first time in the Senate March 2023. The paragraph 25 of part 1 of the fourth schedule to the Constitution designates ancient and historical monuments of national importance as part of the functions of the national government. Paragraph 4, page 2 of the fourth schedule to the Constitution states that cultural activities, public entertainment, and public amenities include museums and a function of the county governments. The principal object of the bill is therefore to repeal the National Museum and Heritage and enact a new bill that conforms to the Constitution. The bill proposes, 1, to retain the National Museum of Kenya already established under the National Museums and Heritage Act 2006, provide for national and county museums, 3, provide for the preservation and protection and management of cultural and...
What is your point of order, Senator Tui? Take your seat, Senator Mo.
Speaker, I would not have wanted to interrupt the member as he moved the motion. Speaker, our standing order number 9 prohibits us explicitly, the Speaker, that when moving, making a debate on the floor, we should not be seen to be reading word by word the things that we are saying. The Speaker is the member in order, unless you are satisfied with the Speaker that should read the moving of bill. Is he in order, the Speaker, to read word for word as he moves the motion?
I think in order that the honourable member gives us inputs and the purpose of this particular, we will allow him to read pursuant to Standing Order number 5. Proceed, Honourable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, sir, after the brief background, I now move to the content of the bill. Overview of the bill. The bill legislative proposal 1, retain the National Museum of Kenya. 2, provide the functions of counties in relation to heritage and museums, and then establish county museums and their functions. Provide for an appointment county heritage inspectors in each county for the purpose of compliance with the bill. Provide for the establishment of national heritage centers in each county. Provides for the maintenance of registers of all protected areas and ancient and historical monuments of national importance, and provide for the enforcement of agreements for protection of monuments, and finally establish the Heritage Tribunal to hear appeals and complaints and resolve conflicts and address all issues relating to heritage and museums. Mr. Speaker, sir, the bill provides for all re-establishment of national museums of Kenya vested the mandate of conserving and cultural natural heritage of national importance. The management of National Museum of Kenya is vested in the Board of National Museums. The Director General shall be responsible for the day-to-day and management and general administration of the National Museums of Kenya, subject to the board's direction. Mr. Speaker, sir, the bill provides also for the functions of the county government pertaining the county museums. In relation to the museums, and the government will have the mandate of collection and documentation of exhibition of materials, objects of historical and cultural heritage that are important to the respective county. The bill empowers the Cabinet Secretary responsible for the matters relating to the national heritage and antiques and monuments after consulting with the National Museums Board to declare and gazette places and objects of heritage of national importance. The board is mandated to deliberate and pass a resolution on degazettements of places or objects of national heritage. The bill further provides for the prescription of the general principles for the management of heritage resources nationally by registration. So, Speaker, sir, under the bill, it is mandatory to obtain an exploration license before pursuing excavation of or before each operations for the burial for the buried monuments. The bill prescribes the procedure of operation in the case of dispenses of rights of occupation of trust land or manage any such land of occupiers of claims compensation. Under the bill, the National Museums of Kenya must notify of the discovery made. The bill also restricts the movement of objects of architectural or paleontological interests without authorization. The bill provides for protected areas and ways of compensation of owners of land declare to be a protected area. The Cabinet Secretary is empowered to prohibit or to restrict access to any development or use of protected area for agricultural or livestock or activity which would damage monument or objects of the archaeological interest. Mr. Speaker, the bill provides for the acquisition, protection, maintenance, inspection, repair, acquisition, and guaranteeship of monuments. The use of the bill, under the bill, the antiques are considered property of the government. Removal of antiques and protected objects from a place where such situated is prohibited and under the bill. The bill prohibits also the sale of antiques and protected objects. The bill provides the condition relating to export of monuments, antiques, or protected objects. The bill provides that monuments, antiques, or protected objects shall not be removed from Kenya otherwise than thorough customs part of entry. The bill provides an enforced mechanism by the National Museums of Kenya to ensure competent compliance with the provisions of the proposed act. The bill provides for the inspection by the National Museums for the appointment of national heritage inspectors for the purpose of enforcing the act. The National Heritage Inspector has been given power to inspect, to arrest, to search under the bill. The bill also provides for the establishment of heritage tribunal which shall hear appeals and complaints, resolve conflicts, and address questions under the bill. Mr. Speaker, the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare held public participation on the bill on 20th April 2023 and resolved and received submissions from the following stakeholders: the county government, the Council of County Government, the National Museums of Kenya, Nature Kenya, Attorney General, and Turkana Basin Institute. The Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare tabled the report on the consideration of the bill. The bill will provide a legal framework for the implementation of functions and powers of the county government, which, with respect to the cultural activities, public entertainment, and public amenities as set out under paragraph 4 of page 2 of the fourth schedule to the Constitution. The bill will also repeal the National Museums and Heritage Act 2006. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish those few. Mr. Speaker, sir, I with those few comments, move the Heritage and Museum Bill, Senate Bill number 8 of 2023. Now be read second time. Beg to move.
Who is your seconder?
May I ask Senator Faki Mohammed second.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kuunga mkono mswada wa makavazi na tamaduni ambao ni mswada wa bunge la Senate na ambao umewasilishwa bungeni na mwenyekiti wa kamati ya leba na huduma za jamii za bunge la Senate. Spika, niliwahi kuhudumu katika kamati hii kwa muda wa miaka 2.5 iliyopita. Kwa hivyo nimeweza kusoma mswada huu na vile vile pia kuona kwamba yale mambo ambayo yanazungumziwa yatasaidia pakubwa kuweza kinga na kuweza kuhifadhi tamaduni na mila zetu katika nchi ya Kenya. Spika, kwanza ni kwamba mambo ya tamaduni na makavazi, mambo ambayo yamegatuliwa kutokana na ibara ya 4 ya katiba yetu, yani 4th schedule. Na ule mswada ambao kwa sasa uko ni sheria, mswada wa makavazi na utamaduni wa mwaka 2006 kwa sasa umepitwa na wakati, kwa sababu kulingana na katiba mpya kwa katika himaya ya serikali mbili, serikali ya kitaifa na serikali za ugatuzi. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, inatakana mswada huu uweze kuangalia sehemu zote mbili, serikali za ugatuzi na vile vile pia serikali ya kitaifa. Mheshimiwa Spika, kaunti zetu nyingi mpaka sasa hazijaweza kutenga fedha za kutosha kuhakikisha kwamba wanasimamia makavazi tofauti tofauti katika maeneo yao na vile vile pia kusimamia mambo ya mila na tamaduni katika maeneo ambao wanatoka. Kwa mfano Mheshimiwa Spika, katika kaunti ya Mombasa hatujaona bajeti yoyote ama mradi wowote wa makavazi katika eneo hili ambao unasimamiwa na kaunti zetu. Ukiangalia sehemu zingine kama kaunti ya Kilifi na haya zetu zile ambazo watu walikuwa wakienda kwa muda mrefu wakiomba Mungu na vile vile pia kufanya matambiko yao ya kitamaduni, kwa sababu fedha ambazo ziko Mheshimiwa Spika ni kidogo, na vile vile pia sheria kulikuwa hakuna ambayo inaweza kusimamia mambo kama hayo. Kwa Mheshimiwa Spika, mswada huu utasaidia pakubwa kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba serikali zetu za kaunti naweza kuangalia swala hili ambalo ni muhimu katika maisha ya binadamu. Mheshimiwa Spika, vile vile katika usimamizi wa makavazi, Mheshimiwa Spika, tunapata kwamba kama Mombasa, zile sehemu zote ambazo ni za kihistoria, kwa mfano Fort Jesus, makavazi ya Fort Jesus, vile vile Mama Ngina Waterfront ambayo ilikarabatiwa majuzi, ilijengwa upya majuzi na serikali kuu, wamekatalia kutoa hati miliki, Mheshimiwa Spika, ya makavazi yao kwa kaunti ya Mombasa. Mara ya mwisho waziri alipokuja hapa, Waziri Miano alisema kwamba atakwenda ataliangalia swala hilo, lakini juzi nilipomuuliza aliniambia kwamba swala hilo sasa limetolewa, yani masuala ya utamaduni, yani heritage, yametolewa kutoka kwa Wizara ya Utalii na Wanyamapori, imepelekwa katika ofisi ya Wizara ya Jenda na mambo mengine ya vijana. Kwa Mheshimiwa Spika, naunga mkono mswada huu na nafikiri ukipitishwa utasaidia pakubwa serikali zetu za ugatuzi kuhakikisha kwamba wanachangia pakubwa kuweza kuhifadhi na kujenga turathi zetu na vile vile pia makavazi yetu ya awali. Asante Mheshimiwa.
Senators, I'll now proceed. Heritage and Senate Bills number 4 open. Honorable Senator. Maybe before you take to the floor, Senator, allow me to make this. I would like to acknowledge the presence county. The nation comprises of 100 students, 7 teachers who are undertaking a study tour. Honorable Senators, on behalf of the Senate, on behalf, extend a warm welcome to them. Wish them all the very best. Now, Senator, for 1 minute to extend the welcome and thereafter proceed comments.
Thank you, the Speaker. The Speaker, I want to join you, and on behalf of the Senate of the Republic of Kenya, do wish to extend a word of welcome to students from Moi Forces Academy, Nairobi County. I want to wish them, the Speaker, as you have done, a fruitful visit. They follow the proceedings in the Senate, that some of them, if not all of them, will be inspired and aspire one day to join this great house, legislate, represent, oversight on behalf of the Kenyan people. The students and their teachers, I say welcome. Mr. Speaker, I stand in support of the bill ably moved by Chairman of Labour, the Senator Murgo, on the Heritage and Museums Bill 2023. Speaker, initially I had my own reservations about the bill, but I have consulted the Secretariat and have been properly guided that in fact what part of this bill seeks to do is to repeal the existing National Museums and Heritage Act of 2006. I was wondering, now this bill seeks to establish a national museum, and all my life I've always known that we have had a national museum. In fact, the Speaker, it will be remembered that my predecessor, the former Senator of Kitui County, Honorable David Musila, has been serving as the chairman of the National Museum. And so when I saw this, I was wondering then, what was Senator Musila serving in? But now I'm properly guiding the Speaker. The bill also seeks to repeal the National Museums and Heritage Act established in 2006, and for a good reason, Mr. Speaker. The move to repeal the 2006 Act could not come at a better time. In fact, if you ask me, Mr. Speaker, it's long overdue. Because when this act was passed in 2006, Mr. Speaker, we were operating under a different constitutional dispensation. But after the promulgation of the 2010 new constitutional order, then the Speaker, the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the fourth schedule, part 1, allocates museums, historical monuments of national importance to the national government. So it's a national government function. But you also know, Mr. Speaker, that this is a national government function with a lot of work to be done in the counties. And so there was need to create that synergy between the management of museums at the national level and the operationalization of what goes in museums, Mr. Speaker, at county levels. Mr. Speaker, I am impressed by the provisions of part 2 of the museum, of the Act, Mr. Speaker, which I think for the first time and in a very nice way makes every citizen a trustee of our national heritage. That the Speaker, if or is it when this bill becomes law, it will be the responsibility of every citizen of this country to act responsibly in the preservation and protection of our heritage. The Speaker, I think that has been captured very well in the bill, and I'm in support of it, Mr. Speaker, so that it is not us waiting for other people seated in other offices to protect our heritage, but it is now incumbent upon every Kenyan to act responsibly and ensure that we protect our heritage for the benefit of this current generation and for future generations. Mr. Speaker, I see that the bill assigns roles and responsibilities to the two levels of government in Part 3, and I am happy with the roles assigned to county governments. The Speaker, where we all come from, our counties, we have artifacts, we have monuments, we have indigenous cultures that are at a threat to the Speaker of getting extinct. Why? Because as things stand now, it is the responsibility of the national government to make sure that these cultures, indigenous cultures, heritages, monuments in our respective counties are preserved and taken care of. Now, with the passage of this bill, the responsibility is taken where it belongs. And now county governments will also now have to even pass budgets to support their own indigenous cultures, their own monuments, their own artifacts. Mr. Speaker, this is a move in the right direction to ensure that even when it comes to the promotion of our diversity, then counties that share almost similar or even complementing heritages, then they would be able to come up with consortiums to even establish circuits for tourism crisscrossing our counties. Mr. Speaker, while speaking about establishment of those circuits for purposes of tourist attractions, the Speaker, yours truly is in the process of bringing to the floor of this House a bill that seeks to establish and entrench regional authorities or regional county regional caucuses to ensure that these economic blocks in the counties then operate within a structure that is recognized by law. The Speaker, this will go a long way in ensuring then that counties have no problems with budgeting for cross-county operations. The Speaker, the bill seeks to ensure that the National Museums of Kenya, now repealed, the act is now repealed by the passage, when we pass this bill, that they should be able to identify, acquire, and record ancient and historical and monuments and sites in conjunction with county governments. So that, Mr. Speaker, I will expect that with the passage of this bill, then one of the things that is going to happen is that now there will be a lot of consultation between the National Museums of Kenya, established and operating with its headquarters in Nairobi, and the satellite offices set up in counties to ensure that then there's synergy, that the establishment and identification of monuments and heritages and historical sites, Mr. Speaker, is done smoothly. There are things, Mr. Speaker, that people sitting in Nairobi may not think that they have a lot of value in terms of heritage. But for the people living in those respective counties, those heritages carry a lot of weight in passing their cultures from one generation to the next generation. Mr. Speaker, with those remarks, I wish to support the bill and hope that, Mr. Speaker, once this bill is passed by both houses of Parliament, then it's going to help us in ensuring, Mr. Speaker, that our heritage is protected, to ensure that, Mr. Speaker, the counties also continue to play the right role in ensuring that we don't lose our cultures, we don't lose our heritage. Mr. Speaker, with those remarks, I support.
Senator Veronica Maina.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this important bill that has been brought to the floor of this House. Let me take this opportunity to chair of our committee, Senator Mulgo, for bringing a genius legislation that can be a great avenue, even of income for the counties, Honourable Speaker. The Heritage and Museum Bill. And Honourable Speaker, and before I tackle any other section, I'll jump into section 93 of this bill, proposed legislation, that talks about the National Museum now being empowered to enable a request to be filed to courts and other competent jurisdiction to order for the return of cultural objects that were illegally exported from the territory of the Republic of Kenya. Honourable Speaker, we know very well, before our community and our nation was alert as to the value of some of these artifacts and some of these monuments, architectural works, sculptures, those who were more aware and who came from other jurisdictions of our nation, Honourable Speaker, carted away very important artifacts that are now showcased in other very modern museums and whose value has become very high, Honourable Speaker. I am very pleased as a senator to see that we can finally legislate a piece of law that can help us to extradite or return all those artifacts back to this country, Honourable Speaker. That means it's a very progressive legislation, Honourable Speaker. I have seen for the first time that counties have been recognized as a platform where museums can now be created at county level and where heritage, artifacts, culture can be preserved right at the county level. That means it has gone down to the people. And every county now must take ownership of this legislation. Why, Honourable Speaker? For a long time, I have seen Kenyans trying to express themselves, their culture, their tribe, their ethnic background, and sometimes it has not come out positively because it's been used to divide people. We now have a legislation where culture can be expressed in a positive way. Culture differences can be expressed through establishment of museums at county level, where when a young person visits, if a young Kenyan from diaspora visits Murang'a County, they can tell how the Kikuyu community lived from before 1900, using the concept of a museum that has preserved the culture and the livelihoods of a people. So, Honourable Speaker, I would hope when this legislation is finally enacted, that counties will take advantage of it. And I want to remember when Senate went to Turkana County, Mashinani, Turkana, Senate Mashinani was in Turkana County. I watched the kind of dances that were presented, read the history of those traditional dances, looked at the attire that was being used by the Turkana people, and for a moment, my heart was captivated, especially by the outfits, Honourable Speaker. Because those outfits, if they are not preserved within the context of such a legislation, In another 20, 30 years, they will be replaced by the modern clothing, and we will no longer remember how Turkana culture looked like or how the dances were being done. So, Honorable Speaker, this legislation is a legislation which the Council of Governors should take and ensure that it is implemented to the letter within the county context, Honorable Speaker. And I'm also seeing Senator Ledama has gotten back to his seat in the House, and I'm thinking about the very rich Maasai heritage and culture that has defined and given a brand to the nation of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, we want to see the Narok County, we want to see Kajiado County, and all the counties around Maasai land, ensuring that every beadwork that has been done by the Maasai, handmade beadworks, the artifacts we have seen, the shield, the spears that the Maasais use, the rungu that the Maasais use. Even sometimes I see Senator Ledama adorning that rungu, but for the hashai that comes from the sergeant at arms at Senate, that has not been allowed to bring it to the Senate, Honorable Speaker. But we want to see all those artifacts settled in certain very good museums in Narok County, Kajiado County, so that when we are promoting our tourism, we can tell the world that they can come to Kenya and learn exactly how the Maasais have lived for the last 100 years, Honorable Speaker, on a platform on very good museums. I am thinking of some of the museums I have visited across the world as I have had opportunity to travel. And I'm thinking of a museum like Madame Tussauds Museum in UK, in London, Honorable Speaker. If you visit this Madame Tussauds Museum, you will be amazed to see the kind of artifacts they have put in that museum and the kind of income that is being earned through the use of that museum. You will find the likes of the former President of United States of America, Barack Obama, together with the former First Lady, Michelle Obama, very well sculptured there within the Madame Tussauds. You can read the history of the whole of UK and Britain. Following that museum, every year they will show you who was the king in 1895, who moved on to 1900, Honorable Speaker. And if we were to take this concept of museum with the dedication that it should be handled, Honorable Speaker, we would have even visitors streaming in. And we must think of artifacts that have been preserved in other jurisdictions like the Egypt, where the pyramids, people travel, millions of tourists flock Egypt and Cairo to see the pyramids, Honorable Speaker. So we want to see that Fort Jesus gets the kind of branding, the kind of marketing, the kind of know-how that people should have about the Fort Jesus and what it stood for the nation of Kenya. We want to see the Lamu doors, which I see have been preserved and have been recognized here, that any wooden frames and doors that date beyond 1946 should also be identified as artifacts that need preservation. And that artifact, Honorable Speaker, could even be like what you're seeing here in Senate, the art that has been used around the Senate building itself. This is art that is not of today. It's of those years, Honorable Speaker. And we want to see this artifact, Honorable Speaker, preserved so that when our children are born, in another 50, 60 years, this legislation will mean something to them and will not only be there to just be viewed and to give the history, it will also be there to earn income for our nation, Honorable Speaker. You know, we have had a heavy tussle with the Council of Governors and Governors when we come to the issue of discussing own source revenue. This is one of the innovative ways that counties can earn revenue and can attract tourism. When I go to Murang'a County, Honorable Speaker, just the other day we had a very big Kyondo event. The basket that is weaved by the older generation, the age of our mothers, who are bringing up a certain art which we do not have ourselves. We don't have that craft ourselves, Honorable Speaker. We want to see the preservation of such, those baskets being preserved within a museum so that even as that skill is developed, as that skill is evolving, as that skill is changing, we can actually see that the museum has preserved and has shown us what pots were being used in Kenya in 1900. Honorable Speaker, you know sometimes legislation can be done here, and because it's being presented in very fine English, people may tend to think it is something that is beyond our understanding. It is just a preservation of those items that were used in the kitchens, Honorable Speaker, from 1900 up to 1910 to 2000. What is the development? How have they evolved, Honorable Speaker? And I'm thinking of a small museum in Karen right now, Karen Blixen, where when you tour the house where Karen Blixen was one of those first British occupants into Kenya and in Karen area, and the whole of Karen is named after Karen Blixen, you will be shown just the bed where Karen lived, where Karen cooked, where Karen had dinner. It is just those artifacts put together, and you are then able to be shown. A curtain is raised, and you are able to view how life was, how the outfits were. When they went for dinner, what did they wear? That is all that is preserved in that museum. And Honorable Speaker, you know, even the Karen Blixen, they are able to raise some funds even as they retain that museum. Honorable Speaker, when I remember one of the museums I visited in UK, there is a small museum of a Christian who lived in UK and who wrote this song, Amazing Grace. They have created a whole museum around that song, and out of that museum concept, they have also come up with very interesting paraphernalias, Honorable Speaker, and gifts that can be sold, and that shows how the song Amazing Grace was composed and how it got into our Christian world and into our worship, Honorable Speaker. So I want to highly commend the committee for coming up with such a legislation, and I believe that our national heritage will be safer, Honorable Speaker, when we get hold of this artifact. I have also noted, Honorable Speaker, one of the items that has been recognized as requiring preservation are those vessels which may have sunk or vessels that predate 1940s. If they are found anywhere by our shores or they are recovered anywhere, then, Honorable Speaker, they are also supposed to be preserved for museum purposes and also for learning and also for ensuring that we can see how the technology of yesteryears has been developed up to now, Honorable Speaker. I believe if we implement this very well, the Heritage and Museums Bill, once it turns into law, if we implement it very well, Honorable Speaker, then it's going to support, it will be a framework that will support research in the fields of ancient, historical, scientific, cultural, natural, technological, and human interests, Honorable Speaker. And it will help Kenya to attract many more historians as they visit the country which is the cradle of mankind, and that is the Republic of Kenya. With this legislation, Honorable Speaker, and with its implementation, we should be able to attract more scientists, more researchers, more historians, even more academies, Honorable Speaker, more universities which are doing research or institutes that are interested in research. I highly commend the enactment of this Heritage and Museum Bill, and pray and ask all the senators to support this bill until it turns into law that can transform our counties and that can also help us preserve the culture and the heritage, our rich heritage as Kenyans and as Africans. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, is to support. Speaker, what this about time that appreciate our diversity, respect culture, and not subject any culture to second grade. One of the most offensive things is that the committee decided that counties will only grade the artifacts that they find in that county, grade 2. Yet the National Museum, rather the umbrella body with the Director General, given the opportunity to grade 1, 2, 3. I'd like to persuade the of Labour, if led by my friend Murgor, to do away with the grading aspect completely. You read Section 4, the National Museum of Kenya shall, in consultation with the Cabinet Secretary and the County Executive Committee, member in each county, prescribe a system of grading of places and objects which form part of the national heritage and shall distinguish between grade 1, 2, and 3. I want to persuade the distinguished senator to do away with that aspect. How? The audacity to be able to come and say that what I consider to be valuable in the Maasai community is now going to be subjected into a second class by a cabinet secretary and an executive committee member of a county government who does not even understand that heritage. Speaker, I would like to persuade directly, good distinguished senator, do away with that. The other part which I thought was wrong, Mr. Speaker, is on number 8. The function of county government shall be to see, identify and maintain and manage of grade 2 heritage resources in accordance with this. Mr. Speaker, the reason why I find that provision to be wrongly placed is because the colonial masters came into this country. They took everything that belonged to us, everything that was important to us. Go to London, in the museums in London today. You will find Maasai artifacts which are there, which have serious cultural significance to us. But they were all taken to London, where everyone goes in there, they get tickets, and they actually get money. Now, when we have devolved resources in this country, when we have decided now to set up museums across this country, we still subject ourselves to that colonial mentality of taking what is so important to the bullfighter from Kakamega to Nairobi. Why not send people from Nairobi to Kakamega to be able to go and see what is important there? So I really would like to persuade you to completely do away with that system of. Who gives the cabinet secretary the knowledge of my culture? Does not understand. Who gives the CC committee member, who is a political appointee, the ability to be able to distinguish what is good and what is wrong? Mr. Speaker, my community, the Maasai community, traded with traders from the Czech Republic who brought in beads. The beads that we wear were traded between the Maasais and traders from the Czech Republic, from the European community. Until today, the algorithm, 99% of all the beads which are sold in this country come from Czech Republic. And when you try to get them from a different country, there are challenges because there was a particular channel which they passed through. So we adapted them, but we have others which are very significant to us. The Pokot have their heritage. The Njems, or Chamus community, who are our sister tribe, have what they value. Mr. Speaker, if you go to the Ataker community, which is a community that I belong to, the Ataker are the Maasais, the Samburu, the Karamajong, the Pokot, the Ethiopians, people from Ethiopia, from South Sudan. We have our heritage, which we have preserved for years. It is upon us. And the only thing that I support with this is that county governments must now set up a particular percentage of their budget to be able to set up museums that will attract people into those counties, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the challenge we have at the moment is that because of this cosmopolitan nature, some of us are afraid that our own counties will be strangers, will be people who will be put in museums. Speaker, I went to a place in Austria, a place called Salzburg. And when I got to Salzburg, they have a beautiful museum. And in that museum, they have a short African man like this, who they say this was a human whom we brought from South Africa many years ago. I don't want the Maasai to be put there and they say, you see that lanky fellow? That fellow is from the Maasai community who used to be predominant in this county. And this is why, Mr. Speaker, the other day I was saying, we now need to be creative in this house. We need to be able to ask ourselves, what are we going to do to solve this conflict in borders? You'll find the Maasais, the Kisis, and the Luos are fighting their borders because of land issues. That's why I said, let us change the law on land so that where we know this is where the Maasai reach, the Maasais who live in that place are told, for the sake of preserving your heritage, for the sake of preserving your culture, this land can never be sold. If you want, you can lease this land out, but don't sell it. Because the moment you now sell that land, the change of use are coming in. So it is imperative that all of us become cognizant of the things that we introduce. This heritage, some of our cultures, despite the, sort of like terrorism associated with people encroaching into our lands and territories, people encroaching into our culture. Because I normally stand here and I say that we've been terrorized, stigmatized for many years. Despite all that, we have a culture which we believe. So I would like to persuade the distinguished senator to amend the following section before even bringing this bill. Because if you don't, I will be seeking to remove Section 8C, identify and manage of Grade 2 heritage resources in accordance with this act. It means that any Grade 1 who are to go with this bill will be taken to a place where we've created a job for somebody called a Director General, be able to collect a lot of resources there, collect all the money, yet if there was people who are coming to visit and they say Grade A, if let's say they decide we are going to charge X amount in Grade A, that money will only remain, Madam Speaker, in Nairobi here, be able to pay for the life of other people. So I think what we need to do is very simple. Even on the part where you are recommending that this DG, who is now the head of the administration, can receive money, donations, we need to be specific on that, the donations that are received. If the donations are received because of an artifact that came from Maasai land, then that money is directed to the museum in Narok. If that money is from West Pokot, it's sent to West Pokot. If it is from Kakamega, it is sent to Kakamega, so that we can be able to benefit from our own heritage. So that is very, very important. Madam Speaker, I'd like to summarize as follows. I support this bill because of the following. It helps us be able to ensure that we maintain our cultural identity. I like what Madam Speaker said earlier on, that I'm proud of my culture. I come into this Senate chambers, adorned with my traditional artifact. I wish I could be allowed to come with my spear. Sometimes I sneak in a rungu. Don't worry. Sometimes I'm able to sneak in. If you go into the archives of here, you will see that sometimes I'm able to sneak in a rungu once in a while, end up putting our friends in trouble, but hey, such is life. But it's because I'm proud of my culture. I wish we could be in a position where we could even come here with a spear. Sure, the bullfighter will also come with another artifact that thinks it's important. And I hope that one day, even a day like this, we can amend your speaker's rules. A day like this, when we are discussing a very important bill like this, all of us should be allowed to come in dressed the way we want. Some, if you want to go where you want to breathe well, so be it. Such is very, very important because it helps us. One of my biggest problems that I'm facing at the moment is that younger generation, and I'm happy that I can see a few who are in these chambers, will be so disadvantageous learning about our cultural heritage. Before, to have our grandparents who will sit down and talk to us about our historical identity, where we come from. And that's why I can stand here and I say that I originally came from Tanzania, which is there was no border between Kenya and Tanzania. It was just Maasai land. My heritage is mostly from Tanzania coming into this Kenya. I heard today the bullfighter talking about his heritage from Zambia, saying that, you know, maybe he came from there. That just shows that we have our brothers, we have our cousins in other territories. But what unites us is to find what they find important and we keep it. Today, if you find a Maasai from Tanzania and a Maasai from Iraq, we speak the same language, we value the same things. So it is upon us, yeah, to be able to say this is what is of importance to us that we want to preserve. Not some cabinet secretary sitting somewhere given power by this act, or some CC of a county sitting there to be able to set up a committee to determine this is of economic value or this is of good heritage. No, it is upon us for us to be able to do that. It is also important, and the reason why I think I like what this bill, apart from those, us to continue educating our own children. We need to educate. Grandfather taught me about my culture. That's why I'm very proud of my culture. Today, if let's say because of our busy schedules, we don't find time to educate our children, tell them this is about the Wanga Magere, or this is about Mumbi, this is about Olonana. I think we can be able to either push it, and I was hoping that you would go to that direction, that this should be a subject that can be taught in early primary, so that when the kids are growing up, they can be able to understand. TikTok has messed us up. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. TikTok has messed us up. The internet has messed us up. People now, you'll see young kids insulting their elders. No, that is uncouth. It was something which was unheard of. A young boy going there and saying the bullfighter, F you, do this, whatever. Why? They don't understand the values that we have. These are the same values. The other day we were talking about the late Leonard Mambo Botella, when he was able to humor, be able to remind us of the importance of our ethics, the importance of our values. He used satire to be able to make us remember. So I think it is important that in this bill, in those local museums, which I fully support, we have a section which is free education. In that section also, I think now when we craft up legislation like this, let us also add an internship aspect, where the local schools provide internship for students who are doing history, who are doing culture. Come here and learn. Let them be the tour operators. If you go to in London, you'll find someone who will be your tour guide. And the tour guide will have a detailed perspective of that culture, the struggles, the things that these people have gone through. Now, everything we're doing today is going to determine what the future is going to be able to take as. If we do not pass this, fund this museum, the future generation will be. The future generation will be looking at the current generation, what we are reading, TikTok, all that stuff. Madam Speaker, yesterday I was talking to a young girl. Say, we Gen Zs, the maximum kids we can get are 2, not buy houses. Because why do we buy houses? The interest rate is 18, 20%. We don't have good salaries. So we'll just exist. How do you just exist? And that is why I'm saying it is about time that we now look and ask ourselves, what is it that we can do to change our future? The future generation will depend heavily on how we prepare ourselves. If we sit here and we continue just amassing a lot of wealth, lining our own pocket, putting our country into debt, such that the future generation, when they come, they cannot even be able to have an identity. All they'll be doing is working to pay that debt. Very wrong. So, Madam Speaker, education is key. Having our national heritage is also very key in terms of this act. And I support it fully, but I hope that distinguished senator will make some few changes, particularly on the role of the Director General, role of the Cabinet Secretary, and also delete that provision where you are talking about grading of the artifact. I thank you, Madam.
Senators. Honorable Senator from Kirinyaga High School, Kirinyaga County, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon visiting students from Kirinyaga High School, Kirinyaga County. The delegation comprises of 110 students and 4 teachers who are undertaking a study tour to the Senate. Honorable Senators, on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, I extend a warm welcome to the delegation and wish them all the best during their visit. Thank you, and I want to welcome Senator One, welcome them, and also to
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, it's a pleasure for me to welcome the young people from Kirinyaga to the Senate this afternoon. And I do so because they don't know us very well. You'll be interested to know, young people, that when I was a young doctor, over 30 years ago, I worked at Kerukoya District Hospital, where, amongst other things, we developed the health center. I believe you call it the fathers. We are the ones who fixed it. This is part of the work that we have done for the people of Kenya. And here in the Senate, I am the Senator of Kakamega. Feel most welcome. When you leave, I don't know whether your senator is around. I will come and address you outside so that we know each other better. Madam Speaker, thank you that I got your eye on an opportunity to speak to this very important piece of legislation. Madam Speaker, I therefore rise to second the bill on the Heritage and Museums Bill 2023 of Kenya. Mr. Speaker. Madam Speaker, I think the best place for me to start in my contribution is where is this law taking us in terms of the economic impact. The impact, Madam Speaker, is that this is the future of tourism in this country. I've heard you speak to it, but let me just borrow one statement from you. You spoke to what you find in the museums in the UK. I've also had an opportunity to go there in those museums, and you cannot imagine, it doesn't matter what time, be it in winter, be it in the summer, when you go to the UK, those museums are always full. They make money from people just visiting their museums. It is my belief that the future of tourism in this country will have to either grow or migrate from the current tourist attraction, which is just simply the white beaches at the coast and the obsession about the big 5, which is okay. A leopard is a good thing. An elephant is a good thing. So is the lion and so on and so forth. But inside cultural tourism is a treasure that is going to earn this country billions of dollars never imagined before. And I want to thank my brother, Bishop Racha Murgor Julius, for this great industry. Madam Speaker, since the distinguished Senate has been organized enough to move us from the national then to the county, allow me, for purposes of being understood very well, to speak to the heritage of my community, the Baluya culture. Madam Speaker, just like your culture of the Kikuyu, we want to speak to these things openly and in distinguished platforms like the one in this Senate, for us to debunk the lie that when you're proud of being a Kikuyu, that when you're proud of being a Luhya, it is tribalism. It's not. Tribalism is negative ethnicity. But positive ethnicity, like what is being provided for in this bill, should be welcomed by all Kenyans who want to break fresh ground for our economy. If you come, Madam Speaker, to our 5 counties of the Luhya Nation, back in Kitale, there will be a museum. In Busia town, museum. In Bungoma town, there will be a museum. In Mbale town, there will be a museum. And of course, the mother of all the counties, Kakamega County, there will be a museum in Kakamega. The museum in Kakamega will give our children and our visitors an opportunity to know that just like all the communities of the world, we also have our own heroes. And our heroes are not limited, Madam Speaker, to just the politicians. I wouldn't mind being called a hero myself, but I know my grandfather, Hayati Ihunyalo, Wakaluali Simbwa, Simbwa Shina Simba, was a greater hero than myself. And yet, no record exists of this great man. He teamed up, Madam Speaker, with the other heroes in my community, mainly a hero called Lusala from Shinyalu and a hero called Mambire from Shinyalu. And we had epic battles. It's unfortunate that heroism at that time, Madam Speaker, used war as a yardstick to define a hero. And these great heroes that I've mentioned are the ones who drove the pastoralist communities, the Maasais, Kalenjins. We drove them out of the present day Kakamega. I know the Senator of Kajiado of Narok, I beg your pardon, the district senator from Narok will be happy to know that until just the other day, we were having Maasais in Kakamega. Yes. In fact, the member of parliament, I think, of Gilgoris is, I've forgotten his name. He's just gone away. He left Kakamega just the other day and they went to Transmara and established families there and they have become Maasais. Yes, Sunkuli. It is Sunkuli that you're talking about. Sunkuli Azadmi. He's a guy, no. He speaks Luhya perfectly nice. Me, I speak a bit of Maasai thanks to my wife. Sakeyen sometimes speaks to the children in Maasai, and I tell her, now what are you doing? You think my children are like bones. My children are not like bones. They're bullfighters, Madam Speaker. So, these heroes that we are talking about, we want to talk about our kingdom. The Wanga kingdom in Kakamega is a well-established kingdom, and these are things that will be on record. We want to talk about our musical artifacts. Not many Kenyans know that whether it is Alliance Girls High School, or it is Shimolatewa Boys High School, or it is whatever kind of school, when you go to traditional songs, when they sing, the songs that win are Luhya songs, and those Luhya songs come from Kakamega, the center of song and dance. Madam Speaker, it will give us an opportunity, therefore, to preserve our musical artifacts including the kind of plays that traditionally are practiced by my community, which include, Madam Speaker, but not limited to Shinanda, Madam Speaker, Isukuti, Litungu, Shiriri, Endebe, Itiolo, name it. The children who the Senator of Narok was calling the ones who practice the TikTok culture from my community have no idea what I'm talking about. But if we have this museum, then they'll be properly socialized. Indeed, with this kind of museum in Kakamega, I look forward to us preserving our traditional games, which include wrestling, shicholo, and indeed, bullfighting, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I look forward to our social norms being properly documented and recorded in respect of how traditional weddings are practiced, the burial rites, and yes, the unique circumcision rites. As a doctor, I've practiced across the country, and I'm able to see, just by seeing a patient, I can tell you if you're a Maasai or a Luya because of the way you are circumcised. Yes, this is it. And sometimes when I talk to the Maasai and they tell me why they circumcise in that particular manner, I say how scientific our community was, because it caters for specific times of a man cohabiting the wife if she's pregnant or not. Madam Speaker, allow me to speak to the benefits and returns on the investment that we are going to make in this bill. This is a bill because of unlocking the tourism potential. It will speak to millions of jobs. As properly articulated by Senator Olekina, you need tour guides, you need drivers, you need the hospitality industry that backs tourism. And these are the jobs that we are going to create. What's more, the returns that will accrue from the gate collections when these tourists pay. Madam Speaker, I want to conclude by speaking to the issue of education and this bill. I see nothing wrong whatsoever if in the 6 counties of the Kikuyu, for example, in the first formative years, children are taught culture as their syllabus. In the 5 counties of the Waluya, children are taught in the first 2 years their culture, their language, and then they expand as they grow to be taught bigger things. I'm not too sure how old you are, Madam Speaker, but people of my age and below, we were actually, as a compulsory requirement, taught vernacular in primary school, primary 1, primary 2, and primary 3. It was only after we were moving into primary 4 that then they started teaching us a bit of Swahili and English. And you find that people, we are so, he had, because he's a younger person, he had to rely on his grandfather. But as it was very easy, because the first 3 years you had to be taught culture. You're being taught Ikluya, Kerala, Bibiri, Bibaka. You are now counting. Madam Speaker, you would then be taught, for example, the vowels. We would be taught the vowels in vernacular. We would be taught ha, he, ri, ho, hu. I mean, Madam Speaker, this is what we are losing because of being obsessed with funny things called English. Yeah? If you want to try, you can either do things. You either get a Luya wife, or who will help you to learn, Or alternatively, you behave as if you are clearing your throat. So you start by clearing ha, he, hi, hu. And there is no way a child would miss and fail an exam because you have taught him the vowels in vernacular. When you now, I listen to the way they are teaching the alphabet these days. I have small guys who are still learning those things. And I've lost them now. Where we used to say A, B, C, D, they say A, Ba, Buf. Ha, ha, pa. I don't understand them. So we have to align our education system with the need for us to maintain cultural relevance. With those many remarks, Madam Speaker, I now yield and move that this bill be read a second time. I support.
I'm not sure whether the ha was parliamentary language. I will let it pass. Senator Mugeni.
Yeah, Madam Speaker, thank
he's
you.
not moving.
But
We are in debate stage.
Yes, I don't.
Senator Boni Halwale.
I think
also
Senator
to
Boni
alert
should
you.
withdraw.
Can you withdraw the remarks that you are
concluded
moving?
the debate.
Senator Mugeni.
Thank you, Senator Mugeni. It's also possible that a student can teach a teacher. Since I'm your teacher on parliamentary practice, I stand corrected. I didn't realize what I had done. If you had heard me at the end, I had said I support strongly. Yes, yes.
Senator Boni will implore on other senators to become seconders of many bills so that your mindset does not always think you are seconding a bill. Thank you. Proceed, Senator Mugeni. What is your clarification, Senator Kenywa?
Madam Speaker, I heard what the majority said, and I just wanted clarification because he sounded like what the kids of today are being taught is not important. When he said they are taught instead of A, B, C, D, what they are taught, it seemed to me like he said it's not important what they're taught.
Clarify whether the education today as it is still important. Senator Boni.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I hear the concerns of the Senator of Laikipia. And if I'm old-fashioned, somebody forgive me. I am so confused about the system of education that we have in the country. I actually don't know. This thing called CBC, Madam Chair, I have no idea what it means. In fact, I was joking with my farm manager, who told me that he asked his 5-year-old, not 4-year-old daughter, to spell her name. She's called Rosalia. And so to spell her name, so the girl said, spelling of my name, Rosalia, is Ro-Sa-Lia. And then I said, look at this CBC. Look at what it is doing to Rosalia. So, much as you guys like CBC, personally I have a lot of reservations about it. We could do it better. I hear in Botswana, it has been done well, and for them to get there, Madam Speaker, they piloted it, I hear, for 10 years. As we got it and applied it in the same tradition that a child learns how to balance himself on a motorbike, and in the afternoon, a a businessman or business. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Senator Boni. Senator Okongo Mugeni.
Yes, Madam Speaker, thank you for giving me an opportunity to also make a contribution. Very important bill, Heritage and the Museums Bill 2023. Madam Speaker, the Swahili say, mwacha mila ni mtumwa. Mwacha mila ni mtumwa. Traveled around the world, realized that countries have put best effort preserve culture. Go to a country, Morocco, you know that this country, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, go to Maasai land, where Senator comes from. You know that they have preserved their. Unfortunately, some of the sub-tribes are forgetting. We are losing our identity. Go to Maasai land, I'm sure almost and they are proud of it. They are proud of that. Drive Narok to every Maasai will be carrying a. But you will every Maasai has that. Tourists who come to Kenya may not know that called but they may not know, Madam Speaker. You go to a country, if somebody has come to Kenya, and most unlikely will they mention all the cases. But they will tell you, are you Maasai? Because, Madam Speaker, the Maasai have been one of the most successful tribes in the country that have retained. For me, our children think fashionable. Speak English. Some of us went to school there, from class 1 to class 4, madam. Language of children. Ethnic language. We had a book called Ratemo, I don't know, somebody here. We had a book called Ratemo. And that was the introduction to our class 1. I'm speaking. Nowadays, unfortunately, and I don't know where the rain started, nowadays the introduction English. How I wish we can find room once more. Because Chinese are controlling the world, but they speak Chinese. They're not embarrassed. They're not ashamed of it. Go to Japan, Japanese, but they're still able to be setters. Logical development. But in this part of the world, we are teaching our children that if you speak ethnic language, primitive, that should not be. There is a very good reason, Mr. Speaker, why the Almighty God decided us proud of. Like I'm proud of Ogusi. I'm proud if you call me Okongo or Morgan. You can link me to an ethnic group of Ogusi. So I support this bill, Madam Speaker. And from the onset, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I'm one of those Kenyans who are very proud of my own heritage and my own culture. When we grew up, Madam Speaker, we used to go through an initiation where the community used to be involved. We were facing circumcision. Celebration was not for one family. Celebration used to be for the entire village. We invite your neighbors, celebrate, take the traditional liquor for wazees, and you are moved the next age group. So I hope, Madam Speaker, that this bill take us back to the board where the rain set, and we can really be proud and preserve our heritage, our culture. Coming to the museums, travel to other countries, and you'll be surprised the queue you find in a museum. When you go inside, there isn't much. I'm sure we could get more that we can preserve than what you will get out. Even having pictures of our legend. Who will not like to come to this country and they see a photo of Kipchoge Keino, put somewhere in a museum, and they will pay. Mr. Speaker, I'm told the tourists that we attract to this country, roughly around our population, countries they have nothing. Japan, they tourists visiting Japan month. In a month. I'm told Rwanda have something they call ahead of Kenya. Ahead of Kenya. So this is one way, Madam Speaker, we create museums in many of our counties. One way of attracting tourists. Tourism. One of our highest foreign earners. Our tourists. In order to support. We are going to have a budget of 4.2 trillion. We are serious. But that budget should be supported by substantially by our local revenue. Way to look at it. Way to look. Go to Central Kenya. There is a lot that we can learn about Mau Mau. Get us pictures of the likes of Madhi, wife, those people fought for our independence. The weapons. Don't we have people, Madam Speaker, in Central Kenya, kept rungus, Raspia, Mzungu, and then the larger Kisi. We are told that there is a man called Otenyo. Otenyo speared Zungu, that the nickname Nyaigoti. Speared Kisi town, killed the guy. And that spear escaped somewhere. I'm sure if we go to Central Kenya, we'll find a lot that can be kept in our museums, and then we interest our visitors who are coming in. Counties. See what various ethnic tribes in Kenya are proud of. Part of our country. That will be a way of attracting tourists. I've gone to museums, some countries out there, and Madam Speaker, you barely nothing, but you pay money. Because when you land, taximan, guy at the airport, go to great lengths to interest. How many of us have jetted into Kenya through Jomo Kenyatta, and there is somebody to interest you to visit a park just within the city? How many countries have a park? There is nobody. You are entering Nairobi, there is nobody to interest. Visit a national park. Just the boundaries. Go to Dubai. The moment you land, there are people queuing. Trying to interest you, go to the desert safari, I don't know where. Go to desert safari. Our roads, rough roads here, you just see Vumbi and nothing. So we need to do a lot. I want to appeal to our CS tourism. Tap into the potential that this country has, tourism. And she can bring us a lot of foreign earnings. Only the untapped, the tourism sector. In Kisi, any other in South Mogrango. Even if you go to West Pokot, that's Stony. Go to Kajiado, not there. Go to Murang'a, it's only found in in Africa, no any other country. But many tourists come to Kenya, they go to Masai Mara, full stop. Come back to Nairobi, board a plane, back to Europe. But if we had a desk at the airport that is marketing that industry in tobacco there, I'm sure we'll get a lot of revenue. And you know, we sell those carvings. When you go to Europe, you'll pay a leg and an arm. We used to do that as arts and crafts when we were young boys. Cool. Then, Madam Speaker, I'm happy that we are allowing the board to have a full mandate recruiting MD, National Museums of Kenya. But then again, we have a problem that is cropping up in this. Madam Speaker, even where you create a board like this, I was in a political function where somebody was pleading with the president to assist somebody to be appointed. And where we as members of parliament have passed a law that says recruitment will be competitive and based on. You are a lawyer, Madam Speaker. You know the agitation by lawyers leading the 2010 Constitution. You know what the MOU between Raila Amolo Odinga and President William Ruto is about fairness, it's about inclusivity, it's about eradicating corruption. I feel so sad when, as legislatures, we sit down, we pass a beautiful piece, we send it to the president signs. Says, as a country, we want Kenyans to be picked to sit in a board, we give them power to invite applicants, interview them, and the one who merits be appointed. Again, you find us, politicians, again want to go back to the president and say, assist my person be appointed. That's not nice. That goes contrary to the spirit of our 2010 Constitution. Like now we are doing interviews for IEBC. Madam Speaker, you appointed us through a motion on the floor of this House. We went to NADCO, spent a lot of time, found the midnight oil. We brought to the floor a fantastic piece of legislation. Said, let us appoint in the panel that will interview commissioners, IBC. Because we don't want to take the country to what was preceding the 2007 election, where people felt that the appointment of the commissioners was not free, it was not partial, who are picked, not going to preside over a free and fair elections. But still you find politicians are talking and saying, Excellence, we want you to appoint for us so and so IBC. Yet the law has given that task to an independent panel. Madam Speaker, we are sending the wrong message to Kenya. We are going Kenyans to have it in their heads that one of the players in the political contest is one appointing the public participation. Tell Kenyans that missioners in office, let them be given an opportunity without any interference, interview candidates, let the best. Anybody from any of the 47 ethnic tribes, Madam Speaker, can be a chair of IBC and the others can be. And we run an election that will not fight another 2007 situation. So I hope the board proposed in this bill will take assignment serious and appoint the managing trustee of the National Museums of Kenya. Really, without any form of interference from anybody. That's how we'll create a country that respects of law, where power is distributed, where the concept of a limited constitution is entrenched. You know the concept of limited constitution, that power is spread and shared by many, and that even where you have a president, powers are limited by what is in the constitution or in. If the power to appoint has been given to a panel, the president has got no authority. If power to appoint has been given to public, let them assert their independence. I sat, Madam Speaker, in Kenya National, in Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission as our chair of the board, interviewed the executive director and 4 assistants without any phone call or anybody attempting to interfere at assignment. And even if you said no, what will happen? Nobody will kill you. You are doing a job that has been given to you by Constitution and by statutes. So I want to urge, as a way of also having a good heritage as a country, let us have this spread of power, president, ministers, interview panel, independent commissions, that everybody can have a sense of belonging. Beautiful country called Kenya. So I want to support this bill, Madam Speaker, and hope that once it's enacted, it will go a long way, ensuring that we as Kenyans can again be proud of our heritage, be proud of our culture, so that when I go to West Pokot, I find people still proud. Culture, proud of the heritage. Same for me, Tomogusi, same for you. My sister here from Yadu. With those many remarks, Madam Speaker.
Senator.
Thank you, Ms. Madam Speaker, for voting heritage and 23. Madam Speaker, this bill actually builds national museums and 2006 that basically established, manage all the national museums and the country. But as you know, Madam Speaker, 4th schedule provide that cultural issues one of the devolved functions, and therefore a function that should be handled by our county government. So the current act, Madam Speaker, is offends the Constitution because it doesn't address what is contained in the 4th schedule of our Constitution. So this is a good attempt to try and align prevailing law and lie with the Constitution. Madam Speaker, I know there are many, many other law which have not been aligned. Still, basically, referencing the national government, very little county government, and yet those functions are either shared between the 2 levels of government or have been involved. So this is long overdue. Like give legislative mandate, legal mandate, so for our counties to be able to manage the museums, various assets on national heritage, their respective counties. Madam Speaker, museums, heritage, very, very important thing to I think this country has museums and heritage very seriously, because if you visit other countries, especially the capitals of most countries, realize that a lot of investment in museums, heritage. I've just came back about 3 weeks ago, and you walk around Moscow city, almost 90% of Moscow, the museums and heritage sites. They will show you various pieces of heritage across city. All the streets, most of the buildings have been designed to preserve the national heritage. And Madam Speaker, that does a lot to our country. In terms of even tourism, tourist attraction, in terms of even preserving the sovereignty of our country, it is very important, because our youth would want to know how our forefathers lived, what they did, who are they. That information is very important. It promotes patriotism in a country. So there is a lot that the country can gain from protecting heritage, from investing in museums, and basically protecting the assets, the cultural assets, in terms of collecting, documenting, exhibiting the materials, and basically the whole process of managing the artifacts and all that. I think that's very important to any country. If you go to a country, a city like London, you see heritage all over. If you go to the city of Berlin, you see heritage all over. But how much heritage you see in this country? Madam Speaker, we are even destroying buildings of heritage in this. The other day, Madam Speaker, you heard some people complaining about the renovation to State House. They were saying, yes, as much as we want modernity, we must try and protect the heritage of key buildings, key strategic buildings in this country, so that our youth, those who are here and those who will be born many years to come, will remember that this country had an history. This country had people who believed in heritage. So, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I think we need to invest seriously in our heritage, need to invest seriously in museums, and that can only happen if we take museums and heritage matter seriously. The situation at the moment, Madam Speaker, not really good for this country, and if we are not careful, we will not have a history, because we will be forgotten. All the things that we have done will be forgotten in this country. So this bill, I think, is an important piece of legislation which we will should all support. Madam Speaker, if you allow me to go through the various parts of this bill, like, for example, Part 3 of the bill, it contains provision related to financial matters, how the funds of the National Museums of Kenya will be sourced, how the annual estimates will be done, investment of these funds. Madam Speaker, I think we must find a way of ensuring that the National Museum's heritage side also draw money from the incomes we get from the tourism sector, so that money that invested there will be used to develop the museums, will be used to develop the heritage assets, that thereby getting opportunity for more tourists to visit. That will be key in the development of this sector. Madam Speaker, Part 4 of the bill provides for the management of national heritage, antiquities, and monuments. I think this is very important, Madam Speaker. You have seen the monuments that we have in this town. Look at the Tomboya monument and many other monuments in this city. They are not properly maintained. In fact, in some cases, they're even defaced. I think this is where the county government of Nairobi needs something about it. In other countries, the heritage sites are protected, heavily protected. But if you have like Tomboya monument, which is not protected, then what are you trying to say? You are trying to say that, yes, we have a monument for Tomboya, but because you have not properly protected it, then you expose it to vandalism. Therefore, in the end, actually defacing the name of Tomboya. So I think that Part 4 helps us in ensuring we have a consistent management of the national heritage and all the assets, including the monument. Part 5 of the bill basically deals with the requirements of obtaining an exploration license before pursuing excavation or a surface search operation for. Madam Speaker, this is very important because we have had cases where foreigners come and carry out exploration quietly and take away vital heritage assets of other countries. That has happened before, and I've had cases even involving heritage assets for Vice President were taken away. Now Kenya is struggling to get it back. Part 6, the bill provides for the protected areas and ways of compensation to the owners of the land declared protected. Madam Speaker, I think this is very important because the Cabinet Secretary will be empowered to issue regulations on how to prohibit or restrict access to an area which is earmarked for development or use of the important assets. Part 6 of the bill, Madam Speaker, deals with the issue of acquisition, protection, and maintenance of monument, even inspection, repairs. I've just made a reference to me, it requires protection, maintenance, and repair. Also acquisition, how do you acquire these heritage assets? Guardianship, the monument. These are things which will help in protecting. So this bill is very progressive, and I am also highly motivated by the proposal to have a heritage tribunal. You know, where when you have a dispute around matters of ownership, assets, around protection, around maintenance, can be taken a legal entity where cases can be brought. Therefore, having a heritage tribunal, very important in this case. Part 9, or part 12, makes provision for miscellaneous matters, including regulations that the Cabinet Secretary, in charge of matters of heritage, can come up with. Also provides for how a county executive committee member responsible heritage matters will formulate regulation their county pertaining to matters of museum and all that. So, Madam Speaker, this is a very progressive bill, long overdue, because the current needs to be aligned with the schedule. So I think this will empower counties to invest in museums and also invest in tenants and protection of heritage assets. Because Madam Speaker said earlier, want to be recognized country, brand among nations, need to ensure that we maintain our. I heard Senator Halware talk about the heroes who have. Madam Speaker, I know of so many heroes, for example, from who even participated in war. World War, some participated in World War, some participated in fighting the colonialist, but they are not documented anywhere. Every time you talk about struggle for independence, told about Mao. But there are so many other people who participated who are not documented, Madam Speaker. I think the Kenyan government must take the of looking for these people. Who are they? What did they do? For example, Madam Speaker, my own grandfather was detained by colonialists in Rusinga Island, where for 5 years. And I have been struggling to even bring up that matter so that this old man can be recognized. But no one wants to recognize him. He was there for 5 years. So, and I know there are many, many other people who have made a contribution to the independence of this country who are not documented anywhere. But we hear names of people who had very limited contribution. They are enjoying their spaces. So, Madam Speaker, even as we talk about this, some level of investment around heroes who have contributed the making of history. Madam Speaker, even talking about heroes, I know we have relevant legislation on heroes, but I think it needs to be aligned. This new law that we are coming up with, heritage, and so that our heroes are a part of the heritage of. When you walk around this city, Madam Speaker, come across heroes who are doing so badly in life, and yet they made a huge contribution. For example, Madam Speaker, growing up, we were fans of football, the radio, and there were big names of footballers, people like Kadenge, people like Murila, people like Austin Oduor, and all this. But Madam Speaker, about them. No one is thinking about them. We cannot talk about heritage of this country without recognizing people who have contributed. So even as we pass this bill, let us think about and the history of this, their contribution to the heritage of. That's why I started by saying that a country, no heritage, country. Go to other countries, then you realize how matters of heritage and Syria. You go to a city like Bali, every meter you walk, something. That is what should be happening in Nairobi. Don't want to see our heritage sites, maybe like buildings or even monuments, being destroyed because we want modernity. Just because you private developer wants to do something modern, we need to protect. Need document it for the benefit of this. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say it's a very progressive bill. I want to join those senators who also support. I hope National Assembly take it up, pass it. Madam Speaker, even as I talk about bills, find it very frustrating that whereas this Senate takes the initiative of quickly processing all bills, whether they are coming from the National Assembly, here in Senate, the National Assembly is taking their sweet time to process our bills. And now we are almost half come. We have so many bills that are there, which are likely to lapse. And that is not a good sign. One of the bills is a bill by my friend here on county boundaries. County boundaries. It's a bill that the National Assembly seriously and passed it like yesterday. I know I am affected. Boundaries between not here so affected. Boundary between many others, Nandi and other places. So I think the National Assembly is down by sitting on bills which are very, like this particular one we are discussing, will not be proper here that this bill go to national 1 year, even lapse. That would be because matters of national.
I have a communication on visit county. Honorable senators, I would like to acknowledge Plenary this afternoon. County is in the Senate for a one-day academic. Honorable senators, welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf. Wish them, and I want to ask Majority Leader to just welcome.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I join you on behalf of the House and our colleague here and chamber. Welcome this visiting. I hope enjoy their time with us and nothing with it. What they are presently witnessing is a debate on a bill that is for this House, Senate Bill 8, 2023, otherwise known as the Heritage and Museums Bill. It's a privately sponsored bill, so that's why members have the opportunity and the time to read on it. I'm sure if they had come earlier, they would have observed something else. I wish them well in their studies. I always never tire to remind them that they are the leaders that we are looking forward to passing on this country to. So take every opportunity like now to prepare for the baton of leadership that will soon be in their hands so that they can take Kenya to greater heights. I thank you and wish them well in their studies.
Thank you. Senator Peris Pesito.
Madam Speaker, let me also join the majority leader. First, to welcome the students. Madam Speaker, some of them are personally known. Most welcomed. Watch the debates in this, even to learn more and even to claim, some ownership of or belonging to this house later in the future. They will be the ones in the. Madam Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to contribute, support the Heritage Museums Bill. One time, I was honored to be appointed a board member of the National. I got to learn a lot of things that go on at the National Museums of Kenya. And Madam Speaker, I learned that a lot more goes on in the museums of Kenya than just in the conservation and storage of old artifacts and a lot of things from our heritage, Madam Speaker. There's also a lot of research that goes on at the museums of Kenya. Actually, at the museums of Kenya, you will find the most learned Kenyans probably, who are quiet, who have spent their time 30 years and above on research, and they are doing a lot of great things, but things that may not have come out the public to be. Madam Speaker, at that time, chair of our board was Issa Timami, the governor of Wale. Lamu. Issa Timami, the governor of Lamu. He was my chair then. So, Madam Speaker, I actually learned that there is so much that goes on at the museum. The research that goes on there, even about various things in this country, plants, animals, a lot of things, Madam Speaker. And so if we were to take time and know what goes on at our museum, we will appreciate the existence of the National Museums of Kenya. And I think this bill comes at the right time, Madam Speaker, to address a number of issues, even make the museums more valuable to Kenyans, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, our devolved units also now have a chance, in participating, securing and conserving our heritage, Madam Speaker, our traditions and cultural artifacts, Madam Speaker. It is because the museums are part of the devolved functions. Madam Speaker, there is a lot, and there are communities, of course. I'm proud to belong to a community that has naturally conservators. We have preserved our culture, we have preserved our traditions, our dressing, our cultural orientation. We have marketed this country, Kenya, Madam Speaker. We have given Kenya a face and a name. And so, Madam Speaker, it is also good that for those communities that have held and conserved what is African, what is Kenyan, and what has given us an identity, there should be a way for them to earn from that, Madam. That there should be a way that people can earn royalties from what they have conserved over the years.
Madam Speaker, I have seen in the community you come from, beautiful dress that most of the times you use for a show. Some of those cultural functions, Speaker. And this is part of our beautiful heritage, things that we should conserve. The Kambas still have their chade and all that, Madam. I'm sure every community has something that they will want to preserve. And we have, in this country, a rich heritage, Madam Speaker, not just of tourist sites, like in the Western region. I'm sure Young will tell us a lot of what is Homa Bay and Kiungo and all those areas. I've heard of the stone called Kitmikai. I would want to reach there. Naivasha, there is the Hell's Gate, all that. Madam Speaker, this country is rich. There is also what we have lost because the Western lost a lot of our tradition. We have lost even direction. We have our cultures that were rich, that were orderly. Madam Speaker, even without the Constitution, there is a way the community will run its affairs. There is a way that we have silent unwritten laws that would apply. If you steal, let's say, livestock, there is a way that is punished. And there is a way that punishment becomes completely prohibited and a deterrence measure so that you don't repeat that kind of thing. There is what is a way, if you kill, if you murder someone, there's a way it's handled, in a way that will make it possible or really, really difficult for someone to do that kind of act. I wish there was we have conserved our laws, our traditional laws, even the unwritten ones. If there is a way we can conserve this tradition, because our kids do not have a chance of getting to know that beautiful, rich side of our history, Madam Speaker. I was also thinking, counties should start maybe cultural events. I think some have started, like I have seen Rock, Kajiado, and have started cultural events that will help to bring back that face of the community that is lost, Madam Speaker. I really do support bill because it will go a long way. In fact, what I have seen, we are slowly losing, like our traditional houses, Madam. I was brought up in a house, home. And today when I tell my kids, just like a story, because things have changed, our ways of living. Those Masai Manyatas have gone, and it's sad that we are losing them. I don't know if there should be a way for us to retain them. When we visited Turkey sometime last year, I realized they still have their very old buildings, which they are keeping. It's not that they are not unable to change, but they don't want to change. They don't want to lose. Buildings that have a family history, a lot of things. I hold with value because our culture, the good things. Madam Speaker, sometimes when we even cross the border to go, feel bad, and I blame the colony for the artificial. Because across the border, our brother, I see our community and all the way to Ngorongoro, all the way to Moshi, Omango, all those sites. Extending to Sampuru, extending to Narok, and that was a whole country of what I am imagining we would have had a nation of our. That's not to expect. But I imagine that separate, bring any different terms of nationalities. Today we have brothers who are I think we lost a lot because of the influence of the cultures. So, Madam Speaker, I support this bill. All my energy, passion, protect that which is valuable to us. Madam Speaker, we have also lost our heritage. So we are told patent. Don't patent, find some. There, elsewhere and all over. You cannot claim it's yours just because I'm Zungu. So, Madam Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this bill brought by Senator Recha Julius Murgo, Heritage. Speaker, it's a very detailed bill. Look at the Memorandum of Objects and Reasons. There's a lot of detail. And it is quite obvious that Senator Murgo applied his mind, perhaps even got the services of come up with a bill that will give effect to the fourth schedule that has devolved county governments and has allowed the national government. Some of the functions of county governments that have not been transferred for national museums, libraries, archives, and even roads. Actually, for roads, everyone knows what should be done. But because of the money at the center, we are yet to evolve or transfer the roads function to county governments. Madam Speaker, we had said previously, national government dealing with classes A and C roads, whereas classes D going downwards go to county governments. So the museum function has not received the attention and focus that the roads function has received. It has not received the attention and focus that the water function has received, or the land function. Madam Speaker, museums sometimes meant civilization of association. And whenever you travel, many a times, find that nations have created their natural heritage
Go to land in Cairo, one of the main tourist attractions is the museum. I've had the opportunity. Madam Speaker, it tells you of the glory of civilization. Civilization that was perhaps greater than the Greek, Roman, Indians, and sometimes you find that because it has been written in a skewed manner. If you do not visit some of these museums like the museum, you will never be able to contextualize and scale and size the complexity as well as the superiority of the ancient Egypt. But because they have curated all museum which attracts millions of visitors annually, even current and future generations able to tell or understand the story of ancient. When you go to Washington, along the National Mall, they proudly have several. One of them that stands out, Smithsonian Museum. Madam Speaker, you go to London, got the London Museum. Go to the Vatican, Vatican Museum. Go to France in Paris. Caught fire, as if the heart and soul burnt. Madam Speaker, when it was restored, Ron invited others. That tells you how significant, how central civilizations telling the story of nations, telling the story. Here in Kenya, Madam, we have the Nairobi Museum and 22 other regional. Unfortunately, unless this is now being told, but many people Nairobians are not able to more than 3. Of course, the one we have on Museum Hill is quite legendary, and a lot of children there be able to see some of the remains, the likes of Nikki, Ali, anthropologists cover. If you go to Basa, Fort has also been designated national. I was talking to Tayo recently, telling me that quite upset that went there, and over and above the entry, sometimes it makes it expensive. I have seen that Senator Murgo has got a third schedule that talks about exemption of National Museum of Kenya from payment of access fees, permit, license fees, export fees. I'm not very sure what that entails, but how I wish that for residents, minimize the entrance fees or access fees to museums to encourage more Kenyans able to visit those museums. I do recall recently, Madam Speaker, when the CS for Tourism did a waiver of park access fees, our national parks. I think it was a public holiday. And then to spur domestic tourism, CS waived access fees. Madam Speaker, what was witnessed in Nairobi, especially at Nairobi National Park, was serious traffic on Latta Road. Because Kenyans came out in families in hundreds, thousands, go to the Nairobi National Park, simply because the fee had been. Perhaps if we cannot get rid of the access fees for museums, we could find national heritage can go. As I've said, that the National Museum here in Nairobi, it's mostly visited by, and if you come from a school deep down in West Pokot, perhaps a visit to the National Museum is great. So you'll find that it only serves metropolitan students, metropolitan people. So many, many children go through the education system without being what is contained in that National Museum. Madam Speaker, this bill, in giving effect to the 4th schedule, should see to it that the 22 museums are handed over to county government. There's a museum. In Migori, we've got is a protected site that captures an ancient Luo civilization. This should now go to But if they are going to county government, functions should be accompanied by funds. So when we are talking about aligning the existing law, align with the 2010, it should be functions plus funds. We are allowing county governments to take over, allowing the National Museum to continue managing or administering matters of national importance and national heritage. But let's make sure that when we are doing our division of revenue, we are doing our allocation of revenue, can clearly cost what it takes to finance the museum function. Madam Speaker, not just the artifact going to county governments, but also the human who have been seen in Nairobi. And we are very careful on how we delineate and how we transfer the staff as well as the artifacts. Madam Speaker, this bill makes reference to antiquity and object. And Madam Speaker, that has mirrored the existing legislation. And one thing about antiquity and protected objects, I read somewhere that there are about 30,000 antique and protected objects dating to Kenyan civilizations that are sitting in Western museums, Western private. Madam Speaker, there was a project particularly from the Western world, that they took away a lot of things in Africa. Well, in Kenya, 1,000 objects have been taken away. Some are in France, some are in the York. Madam Speaker, there's a project run by guilt and trying to run away from where they are proposing advanced. I mentioned that they can do 3D artifacts and bring them back to Africa, while the original continue to stay in private collection, public museum. That is complete. We cannot substitute of antiquity that were made by our forefathers and take a 3D printed object. Madam Speaker, I hope that even as we prosecute the matter, we shall bring or breathe some life into that project. One of the antiquities, why I got interested, was a traditional headgear that was taken away around 1910 or 1911 by one of the private collectors. And upon his death, donated it. Everyone knows who brought it here, and everyone knows where that part. Now they're offering an alternative. That is, and I hope that by strengthening the functions of the National Museum of Kenya, ensuring that we've got proper regulations around it, they'll have the legal basis to be able to fight those ridiculous arrangements that are driven by guilt and that are trying to run away from the real story. Not just Kenya that has suffered. Nigeria has lost what they call the Benin. There's valuable cultural. In fact, Madam Speaker, many of these museums, many of them are sitting in New York. Some of them are at this. Go to Washington, finding an elaborate collection, having come from Nigeria. Bring them back to our museums, but we can only make a strong case, have a proper legal, have museum work. When we have museums that are not dogged as corruptions, heard from another. Madam Speaker, it was a moment of embarrassment when these nations, certain scandals that are currently and issues a museum, certain core business, artifact, logical, of trace antiquity, And then the managers who have been entrusted to focusing on that, get into, and, as running into me. Even donors, even research institutes that would work with not trust that deals. I don't think that ghosts is part of our antique ghost workers, but for that case. So we so that we professionalize that institute. Stop these appointments. Let us look at competence. Let us look at people with a proven track record at particular case, not people who are going to manufacture certain scams just to line them. Madam Speaker, in terms of archaeology, when we were in school, we were told about Olorgesaile, Kariandus, Lomekwi, and Gedi. Like this. Ago, I was, and in my village, for a long time, there's been a walled, a stone-walled settlement that dates thousands, perhaps was done by the Maasai, but it is still questionable. Maasai not known to have done settlement. Those thousands of years back, people had not. When I came back, Madam, that land, of course, had not been private land. And the owner of the land sold it. Went and tore down the ancient and put up some shady parties actors to ensure that the National Museum or the county museums, and this is why it's important to bring now to the county government, because there's no way the guy sitting on Museum Hill would have known that there's an ancient down there in a village, Maundo, any other part of. So when this function is handed over to counties, we are hopeful that they'll be able to go down, identify those sites, protect them, and also encourage professional ways of doing the excavations and making sure that we can be able to get additional artifacts out of those sites. Madam Speaker, this bill also speaks to monuments. Now, monuments, and Madam Speaker, my first experience travel out of Africa, I went to Portugal. Call it Lisboa. Lisboa is famous for many things. Famous for its port wine, legendary, but it's also famous. Everywhere you went, there was a monument for a hero, there was a monument of a history, and they are kept well. They are well curated. Gardens around them are fresh, and people and children come to play. People come to jog and exercise at the monument. I cannot tell you any significant that can act as attractive ones we have here at Uhuru, we are celebrating that most Kenyans really think they have monuments, heritage. Madam Speaker, if you are going to devolve the museums to county government, have we thought about monuments? In Nairobi, all of them to Nairobi City County, that will be maintained by the national museums or national government. Some countries, they have appointed very high-ranking officers. Some countries, I think in the royal appointee, take care of gardens, take care of monuments, because most of the monuments date to members of the royal. So even in our country, monuments are supposed to tell the story. What kind of shady? When we are trying to celebrate record, then people went and think out of granite and seen gold coated and Go outside Buckingham Palace, there, shine because of the days the sun rose and set on British. Of course, that's a history far gone. So we need to invest in, but alongside a monument, gardens, national parks, Jipanji, for what you'll find. But Jipanji has now become a place for people just to discuss politics rather than to reflect on the. As I conclude, there is a section in this bill that I think should not. That is a section on exports. Madam Speaker, why would we even consider a situation where we need to export our antiquities? Part 10 of the bill talks about export. And it talks of conditions relating to export, and it gives discretion and power to the Cabinet Secretary, authorize. And Madam Speaker, for avoidance of doubt, Clause 69 says, a monument or an antiquity or a protected object shall not be removed in Kenya unless it has been specially authorized in an exploration license or by an export permit issued by the Cabinet Secretary, the recommendation of the National Museums and others. I'm asking, and Murgor will help us, but why would we ever imagine that we can export our antique protected objects and matters? The Turkana boy. Imagine that we can take the Turkana boy to Smith. If there was a spear of an ancient Maasai chief and we found it, imagine that we can export it elsewhere. You can imagine Egypt having discovered the tomb of Tut, that boy king, that there was a provision for them to export the gold and the jewels and the riches that were found in the pyramids. Madam Speaker, this section on export, one will be convinced, because it is this provision that has led to 30,000 antiquities, private collections in the West, and now they want to give us passions. So, Madam Speaker, this section of exports must be clearly thought out, but generally I support the bill. I've seen that Senator Murgor has also put in place a heritage tribunal, which does not seem to have been there, the original bill. And Madam Speaker, this is the reason why the Senate expect the bill every Senate function lies squarely governments. Therefore, support, but I hope that we can rationalize. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
To contribute to this motion, so I'll call upon the mover, Senator Mulgo, to reply.
Madam Speaker, I'm very thankful the speakers who have contributed, especially Senator Mohamed Faki, Senator Veronica Maina, Senator Olekina Ledama, Senator Dr. Khalwale Mogeni, Senator Sotsi, Senator Wang. I also want to thank facilitating action bill forward, passing second reading. Finally, Madam Speaker, I want to standing order 6. I request putting question bad.
Senator. Now, order number 75. The members of those are not here, so that they will be called out in the next sitting of this Senate. Honorable Senators, there being no other business on the order paper, the Senate stands adjourned until tomorrow, Wednesday, 12th March 2025 at 9:30